Imola is the next track in the F124 calendar, so it's next up in our updated car setup series. This is still one of my favourite testing tracks, and it's one that you can really attack hard through every corner sequence. To go fast around Imola in time trial, you should really go high downforce, and I have toned that down ever so slightly with this race orientated car setup. Kicking things off, I've gone with an aero setup of 38 for the front wing and 23 for the rear. This is a really big increase compared to our pre-handling patch and leans more towards a time trial setup approach. You will be sacrificing a couple of miles an hour down the pit straight, however this setup will make your car lightning fast through the corners, allowing you to put in much faster lap times than the AI. If you do find the car too easy or too comfortable to drive, you can lower the front and rear aero a little bit more to give you better top speed. This will loosen the car a bit and sacrifice some outright lap time, but it can make overtaking and defending easier during a race. With the transmission going 60% on throttle, now finding traction is harder after the handling update, but I've actually increased the on throttle differential for our Imola car setup this time around. This gives much better drive out of the faster corners, and there aren't really too many corners at Imola where traction is a big issue. The off-throttle diff is still set to 50 just like our original car setup, and I've set the engine braking to 80%. Imola really isn't a track that's really punishing on your tyres, so we can go super aggressive on our camber, going all the way to the left. To be fair, if Imola was harder on tyre wear, I still think I'd recommend going this route as it is much faster. For the toe, I've opted for 0.11 on the front and 0.2 on the rear, for a nice combination of stability and relatively minimal drag. Carrying on our aggressive setup approach, I've gone with the suspension at 41 and 9. This gives really good rotation at the front of the car while keeping the rear compliant. I've continued the trend to the ARBs, keeping them relatively high enough at 14 and 9. Going higher, like 21 and 16 for example, can yield better cornering performance, but it will start to wear the tyres a little bit more and make the car feel a little bit more prone to snapping during a race. Now you'll be hitting the large curbs at pretty much every corner around Imola, so keeping a little bit of height in your ride height is important. I found that 25 and 58 works really well, allowing for good performance while not making the car too skittish over those big curbs. This suspension setup is really designed to allow you to attack the track, hitting the curbs aggressively. Hopping over the curbs at the chicane, for example, can really gain you a lot of lap time. For the brake setup, I've once again opted for 100% brake pressure and lowered the brake bias down to 53%. Many of the corners are pretty short and have fast braking zones, which does really benefit from a more rearward bias. Now the tyre pressures are designed to ensure that the tyres do not overheat during a race. Opt for 24 and 23 psi in the fronts to help get a bit more temperature, and then go with 24.5 psi in both rears. And that will round out this updated Imola car setup for F124. This track, along with places like Canada and the Red Bull Ring, is one of my favourites to drive in pretty much any sim racing game, but especially F124 where you can just be so aggressive, and this car setup is really tailored that way, but it also keeps the rear of the car pretty stable. If you're enjoying these updated car setups, consider hitting that like button or subscribing to our channel, and please let me know in the comments below what you're thinking of these car setups. I've had a lot of really positive feedback so far, and that feedback is really appreciated. But for now guys, enjoy this setup and I will see you on track.